Anna was the kind of girl most people did not notice. She was always quiet, always gentle, and always tired. But people only saw the tired part. They never looked deep enough to understand why she looked that way. Every morning, before the sun even rose, she woke up in a tiny room that she shared with her sick mother. The room was small, old, and cold, but Anna never complained. She covered her mother with a warm blanket, made her breakfast, and checked her medicines. Then she would rush out to catch the early bus to the supermarket. Anna worked as a cashier there. Her job was simple, but her life was not. She stood at the counter for long hours, scanning items, greeting customers with a small smile, pretending everything was fine. But behind her smile, she was carrying a heavy world one that she never talked about. Most people at the store thought she was slow. Not because she didn't know her job, but because she often paused for a second before doing something. Sometimes her eyes would get tired, sometimes her hands would shake a little. Customers looked at her and thought she was confused, weak, or simply careless. But the truth was something nobody knew. Anna worked 3 jobs. The supermarket was only one of them. After her shift at the store, she cleaned offices in the evening. And when she finally got home at night, instead of resting, she studied. She studied with all her heart. Her dream was to become an engineer one day. She loved machines. She loved understanding how things worked. But dreams cost money, and money was something Anna never had. Still, she never allowed her dream to die. Every night, she sat at the old wooden table near her bed, opened her borrowed books, and read until her eyes could no longer stay open. Some nights she fell asleep right on the pages, her pencil still in her hand. Her life was a cycle of work, home, study, repeat. No parties, no friends, no weekends, no rest. And yet she carried a soft smile. People judged her without knowing any of this. They never thought the slow cashier girl probably hadn't slept properly in weeks. They never imagined the weight she carried on her shoulders, her mother's treatment, the bills, her dream, and her responsibilities. They only saw her from the surface. On most days, Anna kept her sadness hidden. She had learned to hide her feelings from a very young age. Her father had left when she was little, and her mother became ill soon after. So Anna grew up faster than children usually do. While others her age were playing or dreaming without fear, Anna was learning to cook, clean, and survive. Still, she never grew bitter. She believed in kindness. She believed people were good inside. And she believed hard work would one day change her life. At the supermarket, Anna's world was small but heavy. She liked the place because it gave her stability, even if it was tiring. She liked her coworkers too, even though they didn't know much about her. She kept her life private. She didn't want pity. She didn't want people to feel sorry for her. All she wanted was a chance, just one chance, to prove she was capable of something greater every day. She whispered the same promise to herself: just keep trying. One day things will be better, but fate is strange. Sometimes it tests the strongest people in the hardest ways. Anna didn't know her biggest test was just around the corner. She didn't know that one incident in the supermarket would change her entire life. She didn't know that a stranger, someone she never expected, was about to see the truth inside her. She only knew one thing: she had to keep going. Her hands were tired. Her heart was tired. But her dream was still alive, and that dream was about to meet destiny. The supermarket was crowded that day. More crowded than usual. People hurried between shelves, trolleys rolled fast across the floor, and long lines formed at the counters. Anna stood at her register, trying her best to keep up. Her eyes felt heavy, but she kept her usual small, gentle smile. She knew she had to work fast, but her tired fingers were slower today. She hadn't slept properly the night before. Her mother had been coughing badly, and Anna had stayed awake until early morning taking care of her. As the line grew longer, a man in an expensive suit stepped forward. He looked impatient from the moment he arrived, tapping his fingers, checking his watch again and again, sighing loudly as if the whole world was wasting his time. His trolley was full of items, and he pushed it in front of Anna with a sharp jerk. Anna greeted him softly. "Good afternoon, sir." He didn't reply. She began scanning the items one by one, carefully placing them aside. But she was nervous. The man's eyes were fixed on her hands, judging every movement. Her fingers shook slightly, and for a second she lost focus. Without realizing it, she scanned one item twice. Beep. Beep. The man's head snapped up. What was that? He snapped. Anna quickly checked the screen. I'm sorry, sir. I scanned this item 2 times by mistake. I will remove. He didn't let her finish. Are you stupid or something? His voice echoed loud and sharp. How can you make such a simple mistake? Do you even know how to do this job? The people behind him went quiet. A woman in line widened her eyes. A child stopped chewing his candy. Everyone looked at Anna. Anna's heart started beating faster. Her hands turned cold. She felt everyone's eyes burning into her. She opened her mouth to speak, but her voice was thin and weak. I'm sorry, sir. It was just sorry doesn't fix incompetence. He shouted again. If you can't do something as basic as scanning items, why are you even here? Anna felt a sting behind her eyes. She blinked quickly, trying to hide the tears. She didn't want anyone to see her break. She lowered her head, wishing she could disappear, wishing she could run away, just for a moment. Wishing anyone would stop staring, but no one did. Some people whispered to each other. Some looked annoyed, as if Anna was the reason they were stuck in the long line. Others simply watched the drama like it was entertainment. Anna tried to speak again, but her voice cracked. I'm trying my best, sir. The man laughed cruelly. Your best. Your best is terrible. You're slowing everyone down. Anna felt her stomach twist. The humiliation was heavy. She had been insulted before, but this time felt different. This time felt deeper, louder, harsher. This time the whole supermarket was watching. She forced herself to continue scanning. Even though her hands were shaking harder now, the more she tried to control them, the worse it became. Her vision blurred for a moment, and she accidentally dropped an item. The man exploded again. Oh, great. Now you're breaking things too? Amazing. This place hires the worst staff. A small gasp came from someone behind him. Another customer whispered, poor girl. But no one stepped forward to help her. No one defended her. They just watched. Anna felt something inside her break a little. A tiny, fragile piece of confidence already weak shattered quietly. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him she had slept only 2 hours. She wanted to tell him she worked 3 jobs. She wanted to tell him she wasn't slow. She was exhausted. But she couldn't say any of that because nobody would understand. Nobody ever did. The man leaned closer, lowering his voice but making it even sharper. You shouldn't be working here. You don't belong here. People like you slow down the world. Anna swallowed painfully. Her throat hurt. Her eyes burned. Her heart felt like it was shrinking inside her chest. For a moment, she believed him. For a moment, she wondered if he was right. But just before she completely lost hope, someone else stepped forward from the line behind him. Someone who had been quietly watching but not judging. Someone who was about to change the moment in Anna's life. The line behind the rude man had gone completely silent, but the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy and uncomfortable, like a storm waiting to break. People looked at Anna with pity, but still no one said anything. No one moved. No one wanted to become part of the scene, except one man. A man who had been standing quietly with a small girl holding his hand. His name was Michael. A single father who was never loud, never dramatic, and never unkind. He stood there with calm eyes, watching the entire situation unfold. His daughter, a sweet little girl with brown hair tied into 2 messy ponytails, looked up at him with worried eyes. Daddy, she's crying, the little girl whispered. Michael looked down at her, and then back at Anna. He could see the tears Anna was desperately trying to hide. He could also see the fear in her eyes, the fear of losing her job, the fear of being embarrassed, the fear of being misunderstood once again. He took a slow breath, then he stepped forward. At first, nobody noticed. The rude man was too busy complaining to hear anything else. This is unbelievable, the man shouted. I don't have all day. If the store can't hire competent staff, then enough. a steady voice said behind him. The rude man turned sharply. Who said that? Michael stepped closer, not angry, not loud, just calm. I did. The rude man looked him up and down. What is your problem? Stay out of this. This girl obviously can't do her job. Michael's voice stayed steady. She made one small mistake. Everyone does. You don't have the right to talk to her like that, the rude man scoffed. Oh, please. Don't act like you know her. Michael didn't react to the insult. Instead, he looked directly at Anna, really looked at her. Not at her tired eyes, not at her shaking hands, but at something deeper. Something no one else noticed. I do know her, he said quietly. The rude man blinked. What? Michael nodded. I've seen her before. Anna looked confused. Her heart skipped for a moment. She had no memory of this man. She had never seen him at least not in the supermarket. Her eyes searched his face, but nothing came to mind. You've seen me? She asked softly. Michael nodded again. Yes, more than once. The crowd suddenly leaned in closer, curiosity growing. Even the rude man stopped talking. For the first time since the argument started, the attention shifted away from him. Michael continued, I've seen you at the library. Late at night? Sitting alone at the corner table with a stack of books? Anna's breath caught. He kept speaking slowly, gently, like he understood she might break if he spoke too fast. You were studying engineering books? Hard ones. Not the usual simple books. And you were focused. Even when you looked tired. Even when you looked like you could fall asleep any moment. Anna's eyes widened. She didn't expect anyone to notice her late-night study sessions. She always sat in the quietest corner to avoid attention, but someone had noticed. The rude man looked confused. What does that have to do with anything? Michael faced him directly. Everything. The daughter tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, tell them. Michael gave her a tiny smile and nodded before turning back to the crowd. People judge quickly, he said. They look at someone and decide who they are in 1 second. But sometimes, the person you think is slow is actually the one working the hardest. Anna felt her throat tighten. Warm tears slid down her cheeks, but this time they weren't from shame. They were from something different, something she had almost forgotten. Michael took a step closer to her counter. His voice softened even more. You're not slow, he said gently. You're exhausted. But that doesn't make you stupid. In fact, he paused, letting the silence grow for a second. Everyone waited. Then he said the words that would stay with Anna forever. She's smarter than all of us here. The supermarket fell completely silent. Even the rude man didn't have a comeback. And Anna, who had spent years hiding, shrinking, and doubting, stood frozen, trying to understand how a stranger had seen the real her when no one else ever did. The supermarket felt frozen, as if time had stopped just to listen to Michael's words. People who had been impatient only moments earlier now stood silent, watching the quiet man who had stepped forward. Even the rude customer, who had been shouting loudly a few minutes ago, looked unsure, almost confused. Anna stood still behind her counter. Her heart felt heavy but warm, as if someone had finally opened a small window inside a dark room. She wasn't used to being defended. She wasn't used to anyone noticing her struggle. For a long moment, she didn't know what to say or how to respond. Michael stood calmly, his hand resting on his daughter's shoulder. His voice carried no anger, only truth. I'm not saying these words to make her feel better, he said softly. I'm saying them because they are real. The rude man scoffed weakly. And how would you know anything about her intelligence? Michael didn't flinch. Because I watched her. The crowd muttered, surprised again. Anna felt her stomach twist. She didn't like the idea of being watched. But there was something in Michael's tone that made her trust him. I saw her at the library almost every evening, he explained. Most people who go there come for school books or storybooks. But she came for something else. He looked at Anna. You came for knowledge. Anna blinked quickly. She felt exposed, but in a gentle way, like someone had opened a window and sunlight had entered her room for the first time. Michael continued. She wasn't reading simple books. She was studying engineering manuals. Thick books, complex diagrams, math problems that most adults can't understand. The rude man frowned deeper. So what? That doesn't make her smart. That just makes her strange. This time, a few people in the line exchanged disapproving looks. The rude man's confidence was cracking. Michael shook his head slowly. You don't get it. She wasn't just reading. She was solving things. He smiled slightly as he looked back at Anna. I saw her working through formulas, real formulas. Things even my colleagues struggle with. A whisper moved through the line. Is this true? Really? Engineering books? Anna felt her cheeks grow warm. She lowered her gaze, embarrassed yet proud. She never wanted attention, but hearing someone recognize her efforts, it felt unreal. Michael took another step closer. One night, he said, I saw her sitting alone with her head on the table. She was exhausted. Her eyes were red, her shoulders shaking. But she still picked up her pencil and kept trying. Anna remembered that night clearly. She had cried quietly because the equations felt too hard and life felt too heavy. She had almost given up. But she continued because giving up wasn't an option. Michael turned to the rude man again. People like her are rare. She doesn't stop. She doesn't complain. She keeps fighting. He looked around at the crowd. That's not stupidity. That's strength. The rude man opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. His arrogance had melted into awkward silence. Michael's daughter tugged on his sleeve again. Daddy, tell them about the time she helped me. Michael smiled at her and nodded. Then he looked at Anna again. You helped my daughter with her homework once, he said. Anna looked confused. I did. Yes, he replied. You were walking outside the library? She had dropped her notebook. You picked it up and noticed a math problem on the page. You solved it for her in seconds, something she had been struggling with for hours. A soft gasp filled the air. Anna remembered that day now. She had been tired, but the little girl looked so frustrated that she couldn't stop herself from helping. She didn't know the man had seen her. You didn't know who she was, Michael said. You didn't know I was her father? You just helped. That's what smart people do. That's what kind people do. Anna felt a tear slide down her cheek. This time, she didn't wipe it away. Then Michael spoke the words again, slowly and clearly. She's smarter than all of us. Back. The store was silent but not cold. It felt warm-filled, with quiet respect. For the first time in a long time, Anna didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel small. She felt seen, and everything was about to change. The supermarket, which had been noisy only minutes earlier, now felt almost wholly quiet, warm, filled with an invisible respect surrounding Anna. For the first time, people weren't looking at her like a slow cashier. They were looking at her like a human being, someone with a story, someone with a hidden strength. Anna could barely breathe. Not because she was scared now, but because she had never received this kind of kindness in public. Her whole life, she had learned to survive in silence. She had never expected anyone to stand up for her, and she certainly never expected someone to defend her intelligence. Michael stepped closer to her counter, not to intimidate her, but to reassure her. You don't have to be afraid, he said gently. His voice felt like a soft hand on a shaking shoulder. Anna wasn't used to hearing such gentle words. She swallowed, trying to speak, but her voice was fragile. Why? Why would you defend me? She whispered. Michael smiled, a calm, understanding smile. Because you deserve it. Before Anna could respond, the rude customer let out a frustrated sigh, more embarrassed now than angry. His face had lost its confidence, and his shoulders weren't standing tall anymore. This is ridiculous, he muttered. All of you are overreacting. Michael turned his head slowly. Overreacting? He repeated. You humiliated a girl who was working harder than anyone here. You called her stupid in front of strangers, and you never stopped to think she might be struggling. The rude man's cheeks turned red. It was just a mistake, he said weakly. Michael shook his head. No, it wasn't the mistake that mattered. It was how you reacted to it. The crowd murmured softly, agreeing. A few people even stepped forward. He's right. She didn't deserve that. Poor girl. The rude man suddenly looked very small. He didn't apologize, but he didn't speak again either. Slowly, he pushed his trolley aside and walked away to another counter. For him, the moment was over, but for Anna, the moment was just beginning. Michael turned back to her with kindness in his eyes. I want to tell you something, he said. Something important. Anna looked scared again, not of him, but of the unknown. What is it? She asked softly. Michael rested his hand gently on the counter, thinking for a moment before speaking. I'm an engineer, he said. I work with a team that designs machines and software, and every day I see people who have degrees but no passion. People who memorize facts but don't understand anything. Anna listened closely, her heart beating faster. You're different, he continued. You are curious. You are determined. You studied not because someone told you to, but because you want to learn. That is rare. Very rare. Anna lowered her eyes. She wasn't used to compliments. But I have no degree, she said quietly. No money for college? Michael nodded. No. I could see it in your eyes every time you studied at the library. You want to move forward, but you don't know how. He took a breath, then spoke slowly and clearly. I can help you. Anna blinked. Help me? How? My company has a training program, he explained. It's for people who have talent, but no opportunity. You don't need money to join. You just need passion and willingness to learn. And you have both. Anna's heart felt like it skipped a beat. A part of her wanted to believe him, but another part, the part that had been disappointed too many times, was scared. Why me? She asked weakly. Why would you choose me? Michael smiled. Because you earned it. You worked for it. You never gave up, even when life gave you every reason to stop. His daughter nodded excitedly. Daddy says you're a genius. Anna covered her mouth with her hand, tears filling her eyes again. But these tears were different. They were for hope. For possibility. For a future she never thought she deserved. Michael leaned slightly closer. If you want, he said softly, I can recommend you for the program. I can help you fill the forms. I can guide you through everything. You won't be alone. Anna felt her knees weaken. Her dream, something she kept buried deep inside, suddenly felt close enough to touch. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Michael gently replied, say yes. The whole supermarket seemed to wait with her, and after a long, emotional pause, she nodded. Yes. The moment Anna said yes, something inside her shifted. It was small at first, like a gentle spark in a dark room, but it grew brighter with every heartbeat. For the first time in a long time, her dream did not feel distant or impossible. It felt real close, like a door she could finally open. Michael gave her a reassuring nod, and his daughter smiled at her with innocent excitement. The people around them, the same crowd that had once watched silently, now looked at Anna with a new kind of respect. Some smiled, some whispered kind words, and some simply nodded, as if saying, you deserve better. Anna wiped the tears from her eyes and took a deep breath. A strange, warm strength filled her chest. She didn't feel small anymore. She felt seen. She felt valued. She felt alive. As the line moved forward again, Anna finished her work with steady hands. The rude customer was gone, but the moment he had created would stay with her forever. Not because of his cruelty, but because his cruelty had revealed her strength, and because someone else had seen what she could be. Later that evening, after her shift ended, Michael waited near the entrance with his daughter. When Anna stepped out, he handed her a small notepad and a pen. We need to fill some details for the training program, he said. I'll guide you through everything. Anna took the notepad with trembling fingers. She couldn't believe what was happening. All her life, she had believed that opportunities were for others, not for girls who worked 3 jobs. Not for girls from broken homes. Certainly not for girls who studied alone in libraries until their eyes burned. But now someone believed in her, and that changed everything. As they filled the forms together, Michael explained the program carefully. You'll start with basic training. Then you'll learn problem solving, design, and software. It will be hard. but not harder than what you've already survived." Anna smiled shyly. "I can handle hard, I know," he said warmly. "That's why I chose you." They finished the paperwork, and Michael sent it in. His daughter held Anna's hand for a second and said, "You're my favorite engineer now." Anna laughed softly, a warm, honest laugh. It felt strange, but in a good way. She hadn't laughed like that in years. 2 weeks later, something happened that changed everything again. Anna received an email. Her hands shook as she opened it. Her heart pounded. She read the words carefully, one by one. "Congratulations, Anna. You have been accepted into the program." She gasped and covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face, but these were tears of joy. Tears of victory. Tears of a girl who had fought silently for years and finally saw the world open its doors. She rushed to tell her mother, who cried with pride. Michael visited later that day, bringing a small cake his daughter had decorated. It had messy blue letters that read, "You can do it, Anna." Anna hugged them both for the first time in her life. She felt like she belonged somewhere. The training program was tough, but Anna was tougher. She worked hard, studied late, asked questions, and learned fast. Her instructors were amazed by her focus. Her classmates admired her discipline. She rose slowly, steadily, like the sun climbing after a long night. Months passed, then one day, during a big project presentation, her team leader said, "Anna, you didn't just do well, you led us." She couldn't believe it. The girl who once thought she was slow. The girl who was humiliated in a supermarket. The girl who cried in libraries was now standing tall, confident, and strong. She completed the program with top marks. Michael's company offered her a position, and on her first official day as a trainee engineer, she walked into the office wearing a clean white shirt, tied hair, and a hopeful smile. She wasn't the shy cashier anymore. She wasn't the girl people judged. She was Anna Brave. Brilliant, hard-working Anna as she looked out the office window. She whispered to herself, "People called me stupid because they never saw my story." And with a deep breath, she smiled again, because now the world finally could.